New Zealanders. I've got no hesitation in opposing it.
Mr Speaker.
Chris Bishop.
Well, I've got to say a couple of things about Chris Hipkins' speech. That was a much better speech than Andrew Little gave this afternoon in the budget reply. That was actually funny at times. It was actually energetic. It was actually relevant to the bill we're debating, and he actually made time. He got to the 10 minutes. The most amazing thing about Andrew Little's speech in the budget reply this afternoon was he got to 17 minutes. He'd already run out of puff about 5 minutes in. He got to 17 and a half minutes and he sat down. That was it. 9 years on the fourth leader of the opposition, bluster and anger and hostility from the opposition. He gets 17 and a half minutes and he sits down. That's all they've got to say about the budget. I thought it was pathetic. But well done to Chris Hipkins. It was actually not a bad speech. Full of factual inaccuracies, like the fact that we've cut early childhood spending even though it's doubled in the last 8 years. Full of factual inaccuracies, but at least a good attempt. The Labor Party's attitude to this budget bill and to the overall budget is pretty weird, I've got to say. And it is disgraceful, as my colleague Brett Hudson says. And it's pretty weird because there's actually a degree of consensus in the House, a reasonable degree of consensus, that what this bill does, which is deliver tax relief and more money in the back pockets of hard-working families, particularly those under housing stress, there is consensus that that is a good thing and that's what the bill does. That's why the Greens have taken a courageous political decision, a principled decision, and I want to congratulate James Shaw and Marama Davidson and Materia Ture for that decision to vote for it, because it must have been tough. It must have been tough with the memorandum of understanding, you know, the partners in fiscal responsibility, this hilarious pledge. I call them the partners in fiscal irresponsibility, given their history in government. But it must have been tough for them, you know, back in the back rooms.
Order. I'm loath to interrupt the member, but there has been an interjection from this side. And quite honestly, we listened to the last member talk about people's backsides and limousines, the talent squad and all the rest of it. Quite honestly, one side asked for it, and I think the other side's going to give it to them. Chris Bishop.
Well, it must have been tough for the Greens to make that decision, but they have made that decision, and good on them. Good on them. And good on New Zealand First as well for taking the courageous stance to vote for this piece of legislation. So the Labor Party looks very isolated tonight, and we know that it's caused a bit of unhappiness in their members opposite, in the coalition opposite. There's a bit of testiness between the parties, and they'll have to resolve that in the coming weeks and months. But good on the Greens for doing this. So the Labor Party says this is a bribe, and that just sums up so much, doesn't it? The attitude of the Labor Party to New Zealanders' own money. It's a bribe. You know, we couldn't possibly have a situation where New Zealanders get to keep a bit more of their own money, where they have to work a bit less every year before they start handing over to the New Zealand government to spend that money for them. That's the attitude. That just sums up so much the attitude of the Labor Party to how New Zealanders should view their own money. And then we hear the classic. The classic is this is a budget and this is a bill that just helps the rich. Well, I've got to say, this is the most laughable and hysterical claim. 154,000 families in the lowest quintile, that's the lowest quintile, the bottom 20%, benefit on average by more than $35 per week, up to almost $2,000 per year. That is not a budget that helps only the rich. That lifts the 20,000 households in severe housing stress above that threshold. That's not a budget that helps only the rich. It reduces the number of children in families receiving less than half the median wage by around 50,000 people, 50,000 children. And Labor's opposed. And Jacinda Ardern, to give her credit, recognised that that is a measure, one of the measures that people often use to measure child poverty. That's one of the measures that people use, and the Labor Party has used it themselves. Well, on the government's own numbers, this lifts those kids out of poverty to the tune of 50,000 children per year. And that's why the Child Poverty Action Group, which I think all members would agree is not traditionally a friend of this government. In fact, they weren't actually a friend of the last Labor government either when it came to the in-work tax credit. But anyway, they're not a friend of the Labor government. They said these moves must be encouraged. And I don't want to be accused of misleading the House, because most of their press release was fairly critical. But it basically said you should have gone further. You should have lifted more children out. And we would disagree on some aspects of what they said, but they did say that these moves must be encouraged. Overall, 1.3 million families, Mr Speaker, benefit to the tune of, on average, $26 per week. This is not a budget that helps only the rich. This is not a government that does that. It was this government in 2015 that raised benefit levels for the first time in 43 years. It was this government that did that. It was a national-led government that did that, not a Labor government. It was a national-led government that did that, and we were only able to do it because of the strong, hard work over the last 7 or 8 years under the leadership of John Key and now Bill English. The strong economic plan we've been delivering that has been raising wages, creating jobs, and now gives the government the fiscal headroom to deliver to those who need it most. And that's exactly what the budget does, and that's exactly why I'm very proud to vote for it.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the results of an opinion poll in Wainuiomata that showed that 5 out of 6 voters were voting Labor, and the only voter that the Wainuiomata News could find who was going to vote National was Chris Bishop.
I wonder if the member can confirm that it actually exists, or has it yet to be done? Leave is put for that purpose. Oh. Well, that's a bit of a shame, because I was looking forward to reading it. The Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, it appears